Don't all jump at once. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it.
Why is Lambeau such a tough place to play?
Why is Lambeau such a tough place to play? I don't know. I think there's something about the environment that the players they get very in tune with. I think it's very similar to what we have here in Seattle with the 12th man. It's just a different environment. It's very hard for other teams, opposing teams, to come in and feel the juice on their end of it, on their side of it. It's a very intimidating place if you allow it to be. Like, again, with a lot of tradition, a lot of history. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
For one more, how does Don Capers and that defense kind of figure into the challenges that Lambeau presents?
Well, Don Capers is probably one of the more methodical defensive coordinators. You know, his attention to detail is very prevalent. It's very easy to see it throughout. If you watch all the games, you can see his attention to detail is spot on. And so that makes our jobs more challenging, but it's also more exciting, right? Because we know that we're going to be tested, and we enjoy that part of it. So his attention to detail, his knowledge of the game, just his, I mean, I think he's been coaching for 45 years or something like that. It's unbelievable. So we've got our hands full, but again, excited about the challenge.
What have you learned about Eddie Lacy since he's been a teammate of you?
Really funny guy, real fun, loving guy, big teddy bear, and he's got quicker feet than you would think for a guy his size. It's pretty impressive for him to be able to move the way he does. I'm excited to see him in some live action, consistent live action. And here it comes.
I'll ask you one more football question, Doug. The poise that everybody talks about with Shaquille Griffin, is that, do you ever see that in rookie cornerbacks?
I just said this probably about an hour ago. Shaquille is probably one of my favorite rookies ever when it comes to the mental side of the game. He just, nothing phases him, you know, and it's pretty incredible for a rookie to come in at that position, to have that amount of poise, that amount of mental strength. He's phenomenal. He's extremely mature, and you know, shameless self-promotion, we got the same agents, so you know, I'd like to think my agent has a knack for finding those types of guys. But Shaq is just, he's I really don't know how to describe it. He seems like a 10-year vet, maturity-wise, and I don't know how to explain it. He's ready for the job, you know, and every time that I look at him, every time that I watch him, his mannerisms, his body language, they don't show that of a rookie. You know, he seems like he's very comfortable in his own skin. He's very comfortable in his position, and he's learning as much as he can. He's taking it from the older guys like Richard, and he's translating it to the football field very quickly, which is extremely impressive for a rookie.
Is there an example that left an impression on you in that regard?
Yeah, so
were you like, whoa, this is different?
I can't remember what preseason game it was, but they threw several go balls on him, deep balls on him, and he broke up every single one of them. And he didn't act like he was surprised. He didn't really celebrate it. It was just like, this is what I do. You know, it was a very very reassuring body language that I received from him in those moments. And so, you know, that's just something that comes with time, and for him to have that at such an early age is extremely impressive.
Is that something that,
I was going to say, to clarify, he's your favorite rookie at that position since Sherm?
No. Sherm definitely was not my favorite rookie at all.
is that something that would serve him well on Sunday, Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field?
Absolutely. He gets an opportunity to go up against one of the best quarterbacks that this league has seen, in Aaron Rodgers, and he's gonna have to do it. You know, where our defense is depending on him, our team is depending on him, and he carries that very confidently. So, yes, does he have a challenge at his feet this weekend? He does. However, I'm not too concerned about it. I think he's going to be ready for it.
You said reassuring because you know that anytime someone opposite Richard Sherman, he's going to get thrown at anyway, but now it's a rookie and it's Aaron Rodgers. And you said you were reassured by his performance in that preseason.
Yeah, it's more so just the mentality that you have to have at corner. You know, I've seen a lot of guys where you can notice their body language where they feel like, okay, I'm uncomfortable, and then you have them as a receiver, right? With Shaquille, it's not that. You know, he may lose a one-on-one matchup at any given point, but his body language still shows that confidence. And sometimes it could be intimidating to a receiver. You know, you go at a guy, you beat him, and it doesn't faze him. Then you're wondering, okay, what else am I going to throw at this guy to get him off his game? And Shaquille, again, does a great job of not allowing those negative plays to get under his skin. And so, yeah, when he has his opportunities to be thrown at, which he is going to have a lot of them this coming game, I think he's going to bounce back from any plays that he gives up, if he does give up any plays.
Has the receiving room been any different this week without Jermaine being there? And just what are your thoughts, I guess, on how it's going to come together without Jermaine?
Yeah, so there's a big hole to fill with Jermaine gone, not only on the field but also in that locker room. Jermaine was a strong leader in our locker room, you know, for the team as a whole, but also very specifically for our receivers group. You know, I think a lot of people would look at me and say I'm the rah-rah guy. I'm kind of like more vocal, more out front, but Jermaine was a guy who was making sure that all the holes were filled, you know, that there was nobody falling through the cracks. He was the servant leader that we all aspire to be like. And, you know, there's a big hole now because he's not there. And we're trying our best to fill it, you know, and then specifically on the football field, just the intricacies that he did in our offense. You know, guys aren't used to doing. They didn't have to do them because Jermaine was so willing and able to do it. Now guys are being called to do those things, and that's another challenge for us. But again, we have a lot of guys in our locker room and our receivers room who are up for that challenge, or who are willing to put themselves on the line to do that for the betterment of our team. So we'll do the best that we can.
For this team as a whole, what sort of measuring stick does this game provide you guys getting Green Bay on the road in Week 1?
Well, there's really no measuring stick. The measuring stick for us internally is, are we having fun, first and foremost, and are we giving everything to the guy next to us? It doesn't matter who we're playing, honestly, you know, because they're going to throw at us things that we didn't prepare for, and that's just the nature of the game. That's just the strategy of the game. However, if we prepare ourselves to the best capability that we are capable of preparing ourselves to, then we give ourselves a chance to win, and that's all you can ask for. If we go out there and we roll out our best game as individuals and as a team, and we still lose, well, then they were the better team. But you know, we're going to prepare ourselves the best that we can, and not allow the distractions or who we're playing to interfere with that.
What are your thoughts on the Michael Bennett situation?
It took you guys that long to bring it up. You want me to just talk about the whole thing? That's a very broad question. I have seen the video. Scary. It's a scary situation to be in. I'm not sure how many of you have ever been in that situation, but you know, seeing Michael Bennett in that situation reminded me of two very similar situations that I've been a part of and seen. Sherm had a very similar situation when we were in college, and I had a very similar situation when I was in high school. And those are extremely traumatizing situations to be in when you feel like your life is in somebody else's hands. You know, you truly feel like your life is flashing before your eyes because you don't have control of the situation. You have lost all control. And it's a very traumatizing situation. And I know it's hard for some people to put themselves in that mindset or put themselves in somebody else's shoes. It's very hard for humans to be empathetic. But that's my challenge, is if you can just put yourself in that scenario, in that situation where, you know, you have a wife, you have a husband, you have kids, you have family, all these things that are important to you that, you know, when you strip away your job, your money, all these other things that, you know, those are the only things that matter, and they could so easily be taken away from you by, you know, a centimeter. You know, those when you're in those situations, it traumatizes you, and it makes you reevaluate things and look at life differently. And I know it's a very traumatizing situation to not only to see but also to remember what that felt like.
He said you were one of the guys he sort of talked to afterward, and just about how to handle it going forward, things like that. I mean, did you have some specific advice for him at all about it? Yeah, so Mike reached out to Sherm and I specifically about this situation and how he wanted to go about it. And
honestly, it was just a very difficult conversation because obviously we support Michael and love him to death, not only as a teammate, but, you know, as a human being and what he stands for as a man. But, you know, there's a lot of emotion that goes through it and into it. And for him to come out of it the way that he has, I'm extremely proud of him because, again, being empathetic, putting myself in those shoes, you know, when I was in that situation, the first thing I wanted to do was raise hell. You know, somebody's got to pay for this. And I think that, you know, yes, there is a call to action and you want people to be responsible for their actions. However, I think Michael's doing it in a very mature manner, and he's you know, putting all his information together, and so we support him in that. And yeah.
Was your initial reaction to tell him to go public, or how did that happen?
My initial reaction was let's think this through, right? Let's not allow our first order of thought, which is based on emotion, to cloud our better judgment, you know, and not to say that he didn't have that, you know, he was doing anything or saying anything wrong. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, his message was going to get clearly across, because we've seen before how the message can get lost in translation, right? And so we wanted to make sure that the essential part of his message of what actually happened, the details of actually what happened, and that there wasn't other stories being created, you know, and that was very important to us.
You think that message is getting out?
I hope so. I hope so. Again, I hope that people can be empathetic in this situation. You know, I'm not gonna say, you know, who's wrong or who's right, right? Like, everybody has their opinion on that. Everybody has their perspective on that. All I know is that a man felt like his life was threatened, that his life was in danger. And again, if you've ever been in that situation, it doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong. That's a traumatizing situation to be in, especially when you have family, when you have kids. It changes the course of your life forever. And so, I mean, honestly, our main focus is just making sure that we're there mentally and emotionally for Michael, and supportive in every way that we can be. And again, he's handled it in a very mature, very strong way, and I admire him for that.
Do you think this will affect the anthem protest at all, the way the team handles the anthem?
I don't know. That's still to be seen.
With the details and now the Las Vegas Police Union asking the NFL to investigate Michael for false accusations. I don't know if you heard, you were practicing this morning when that came out, but
Yeah, I didn't hear about that.
is there fear that the message once again is being sidetracked by the details of the incident? Who was right, who was wrong? Is this the right thing? Those kind of issues that have been on the side.
Well, the fact that you're asking me says yes. You know, I mean, that's, if you're asking me that question, then obviously, again, my challenge and my encouragement to everybody who's, you know, interacting and engaging with this story is to be empathetic. Just be empathetic. I can't say it anymore. Right? I think that's our number one problem in society, is that we're just not empathetic. I understand everybody has their own political views, their own ideals of what's right and what's wrong, but if you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, just for a moment, you know, maybe you might act and think differently than you normally would. And same for the other side. If they put themselves in the other side's shoes, maybe they would act and think differently as well. But is there a possibility that this story can get crossed up with, you know, other agendas? Absolutely. But that's just part of the battle.
Does your meetings with the police, does that change the way you look at this in any way?
No. Fortunately enough, I've had these numerous conversations that have allowed me to not be so emotional, right? Not to base my judgment or my thoughts off of my first order of thought. To really take a step back, digest it, and analyze it in I don't know, in a more mature manner, I guess. And so I think that those conversations have been very beneficial to me personally.
Has that part been difficult? Just handling it with maturity? You mentioned when raise hell initially and things like that. You're in this type of position.
Absolutely. I think anybody would, though. And I say maturity not only as you know, as an adult, because we all know that some adults aren't very mature either. It's just, again, just being empathetic, being, realizing that, okay, first and foremost, there's two sides to it, right? There's always going to be two sides to it. But then at the same time, being able to put yourself in that person's shoes who was directly affected, who probably had the most traumatizing part of it, Yeah, I really don't know what else to say about that.
Was this something addressed? Did Michael tell the whole team, or how did everyone on the team?
I think everybody on the team heard about it just, in passing in conversation. Like the day after it happened, Mike reached out to Sherman and I, so that's how we found out. And then obviously protecting his privacy, we waited for him to tell guys, and then when we were approached about it, and then we talked about it.
How does this team go from this, and you've done it before, you were meeting with police people at this time last year to talk about policing procedures and attorney generals. How does this team go from that to your job on Sunday? It seems like flipping a switch. Or am I assuming that you don't?
No, I mean, we absolutely, there's a switch, right? You have to switch off all distractions and be able to focus on the field on game day, right? There's a part to that. I just think that the players in this league, because they are elite competitors, that in order to survive in this league, you have to be able to have that switch, to switch off distractions. I think that they're well versed at it. They're well versed at it, and they have a lot of practice at it. And so, yeah, when you have, I'll break it down just more simpler. We're human beings, right? So a lot of us have families, have issues going on outside of football that interfere with our focus, but we still have a job to do. You still have to come into this locker room. You still have to come on this field on the game day and perform at a high level because the guys next to you are needing you to do so. So yeah, we've had a lot of practice at it, and I think you could make a big point about it for us in the NFL, but I think that would be across any arena, right? You go to work every day. You may have issues at home. I'm dealing with issues right now with my parents and my family back home in Florida with this hurricane situation. That's constantly on my mind. But I know that Eddie Lacy and Richard Sherman and Justin Britt, they're needing me to come out here and perform at a high level so we can get ready for Sunday. And so yeah, at times you have to be willing to switch it off, and we've had a lot of practice at it.
Are they in place, or they have to evacuate?
No, we're not. We don't have a final plan yet. We're working on that.
Anything else? Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, guys.